to 6 p.m.
हाँ ये पूछो तो अच्छा।
Advanced asanas, yeah, a lot of you do that. Those who don't, what do they do?
We take rest.
Okay, but what is the time allocated for? Milk, all right. And tune with nature, right? So what do you mean by tune with nature? Has any of you done that in the last 15 days almost that you're here? What do you do when you want to tune with nature? And why is it important?
I think we did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I think we did it when we went outdoors and we did the Surya Namaskar on Sunday.
Right. Alright, great. Because you're going to be yoga instructors, there are going to be all sorts of people with all sorts of problems, physical, mental, come to you. Now, if somebody who's very depressed comes to you, what are you going to teach him? What are you going to tell him? Any clue? Somebody suffering from any mental disorder, anxiety or depression or anything. Are you going to teach him asanas straight away? Is he going to be able to follow it?
No chance.
No chance. Similarly, a lot of other things, even pranayama, he might be able to do little but not much. So what you can do is ask him to tune into nature, okay? Because that is the best way to release stress. And we're going to discuss about the cows, particularly the desi cows today, because they are most closely related to nature. It is in fact the best link between nature and human beings. Alright, so the question arises, why should I know or study about the cows? So how many of you are vegetarians? Great. So what's the main source of protein for you? Milk, right? Ghee, yeah, and all the other things that we get from the cow. So vegetarians get so much from the cow. In fact, there's a saying in Sanskrit which says that by drinking buttermilk at the end of a meal, and by drinking milk at the end of the day, and by drinking water at the end of the night, you stay disease free. Alright? But we need to understand what is that milk. You know, when you hold a glass of milk, when you're sitting in the canteen, what does it contain? Where it is coming from? Because yoga is huge, right? Union. Union with what? Union with ourselves, union with nature, union with the Paramatma. So whenever we talk about yoga, it has to be going back to the source. So I ask you, where does the milk come from? Do you know? Great you said that because I thought somebody would say packet. I've had that answer a number of times. So that's great you know it comes from the cow. But what kind of cow? How is it being fed? Is the calf being fed? There were in fact many regulations to take milk. Like today there's Amavasya. You must have studied in the Panchang today. On Amavasya day, milk is not supposed to be taken from the cow. There's so many such rules in Ayurveda because the cow is so closely related to nature. Alright? So let's begin our journey to understand. The next set of people, how many of you vegans here? People who don't take milk or any animal product? Nobody? Okay, so that's another major fad in the West particularly. So they don't take anything from the cow directly, but you have to still understand cow plays an important role because the cow dung and the gomutra and all that you get, it's going to be used for organic farming, right? So even the vegans who say that I'm not going to take anything from any animal is actually dependent on plant-based diet which comes from the cow. And for the non-vegetarians, I know most of you would never have eaten beef because that's the culture of India, but some of them did. In my batch, there was one girl who ate beef, and I asked her, do you know why do you eat it? We're not saying don't eat beef, but because every action we do has a consequence. That's the law of karma, right? Whatever we do, for every cause there is an effect. And for every effect there is a cause. So we should just understand why Indians, for example, never ate beef. So I divided, there could be hundreds of reasons, but I'm going to give you only 5 reasons today. Divided into cultural reasons. So why do you think we don't eat beef as Indians? Anybody? We worship the cow. Okay, what's the reason for worshipping the cow?
Because we get so much from it.
We get so much from it, right? So we have what we call as gratefulness and compassion towards the mother. We give her the status of a mother, right? Because she, in fact, there are a lot of mothers who are not able to feed their children, right? They don't have enough breast milk. So what is the alternative? The cow is the alternative, right? So right from a toddler till we grow up and die also, we need the cow. And we are reverent people. We don't take milk and take everything from the cow and then cut it up, right? So that's one great quality of Indians. In fact, here's a picture of how a family photo in the previous days always was with the cows. Right? The other thing is, in fact, let me ask you, what is one thing you can do today, right now, to purify the environment so that you get pure environment today, right now, around you? Is there any answer in the modern science for this? Sorry? No, purify the environment. How is biogas purifying the environment? It's not, it's utilizing, it's a chemical, it's a pollution-free method of cooking, yeah. But it's not purifying the environment.
Plant more trees.
Sorry?
Plant more trees.
Perfect, but then you don't get the effect of it right now. Trees take like 20 years to grow. Fumigation. So a technique that was given in the Vedas called yagyas or homas, right? It is the best way of purification of the environment, for which again you need the cow. You cannot do a homa without ghee. You cannot do a homa without the desi cow dung. In fact, there's a website here. I'm going to just show you this. It's a European website who are promoting the role of the yagyas for purification of the environment. Here you see hundreds of people sitting there. Can you see the first picture?
Yes.
They all have a Havan Kund in front of them. These are not Indians, these are foreigners who are doing the homa to purify the environment. So we have to learn a lot how the world has taken the best from us, how we need to bring it back and bring it into our life. So the third reason is that a cow is the most useful animal till the end of its life, even if it stops giving milk, because it gives cow dung and gomutra, which is used for organic farming, right? Now scientifically, these were cultural reasons. Scientifically, the UN has said that beef is the most environmentally damaging meat. This is by the United Nations, alright? Here's a small graph that shows beef as a consumption kg of CO2 per kg of protein. So if you were to get protein from beef, you're going to have say 500 units of carbon dioxide emissions, whereas in the vegetarians you look at rice, potato and all that, it's really, really small. There are many factors that have gone into this graph, but I'll give you a small example. It takes 16,000 liters of water to make 1 kg beef, whereas rice, which is the most water consuming grain, takes only 800. So 20 times more, right? So this is a great sign. On a scientific basis, you can say beef is bad. And finally, also the WHO has said that beef weakens your immune system. In fact, it's classified processed beef in the same category as smoking, which leads to cancer. In a recent interview published in the MIT's Technology Review, Bill Gates, everybody knows who he is? Right? Richest man, most influential man in the world, says, the world must stop eating beef to save the world from climate change. So something that our rishis told us and something that we adopted as a whole community and a whole society is now being recognized by the world. So we should be extremely proud, right? I'll tell you a lot of things we shouldn't be proud about related to cows, but this is one thing that we should be really, really proud of. Sorry.
How exactly pollution occurs by eating beef?
That's what I said. So if you were to consume, just take the water example. So it takes a lot of water to rear a cow to come to its full size. If you were to just chop it up to give you 1 kg of beef, it's estimated that it's consumed 16,000 liters of water for that 1 kg. Whereas rice, it takes about 800 liters of water. That's just one example. There are many such factors that go into the calculation that of the graph that I showed you. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'll take a lot of questions when we go to the Goshala. So all of you can ask me a lot of questions, but right now I have to cover the material that is. So we'll avoid questions right now. So what is the world's wellness trend these days? Anybody? Vegan, okay. Anybody else? Yoga, right? Yoga is a great trend, but other than that, there's something called Koye Kanu Fala, alright, which means cow hugging in Dutch, alright. So cow hugging is the world's new wellness trend according to the BBC. In fact, today there was an article in the Forbes where Pamela Anderson, boys would know, yeah. So that lady is hugging the cow. You can have a look at it. Right. So cows warm a body temperature, right? It's slower heartbeat, mammoth size, makes them extremely huggable, okay? And reclining against them, getting licked is all part of the therapeutic experience. This is by the BBC. Amazed, right? So cow cuddling is also believed to promote positivity and reduce stress by boosting oxytocin, the hormone released in social bonding. Interestingly, there's a price for it. You need to pay $75 an hour to hug a cow abroad. Yeah. So if you are Esrasa, and most of the places in India can do it for free, right? So if you hug a cow 10 times here in Esrasa, your fees is covered. Right. So this is my friend Answer from last batch, and we used to tune into nature, and I'll say how we used to tune into nature once we were walking. So these are some pictures of us. This is the bull here. So what is so special about the cows at Eswasa? Are they special or are they the same? Anybody? You look at them. Do they look special? Have you seen such cows before? Yes. Which are the ones you found on the road? Do they look like this? No. Okay, good observation. So what is so special about them that they are desi cows, or what we call in India as gau, right? Desi cows or gau. So there's a classification of breeds, so into Bos Indicus and Bos Taurus. Bos Indicus were original breed from India, Africa, all the basically tropical regions of the world, and Bos Taurus is from the temperate zones in the world. Then remember that much geography, right? Temperate zone, tropical zone, temperate zones. Yeah. So to look, I'll just give you an example here. The ones on the right are the Bos Indicus, found in India and so on, and on the left you see what you find on the roads these days, right? So these cows are actually not from India. Jersey, HF, Brown Swiss, and so on. What's the physical difference that you see here? Anybody? Yeah. Very good. So the major difference you see is in the Indian breeds you'll find a big hump on the back. Can you see it? Which is not to be found in the other ones. In Sanskrit or Hindi we call it the Surya Ketu Nadi. Okay, because our cows are in the tropical belt, they are so closely related to all the cosmic movements, right? From the sun till the Ketu. So Surya Ketu means it encompasses all the 9 planets. Surya, Chandra, Mangal, Buddha, all of them, right? All the way till Ketu, Rahu, Ketu, alright. So what it does is, it absorbs in a lot of that energy through its hum. That's why grazing of the cows is so important in the sunlight. Okay, so it absorbs all that energy and passes it on to its milk and gomutra and so on. Alright, another difference anybody can notice physically? Height is almost the same. Yeah, horns, okay. Horns are also more distinct. Any other? Skin, what about it? It's it's a little tender as compared to the others. Another thing you notice in the neck area. This is below the neck. It's a loose hanging dewlap, okay? So that is for the exchange of air and sweat, basically. Sweat goes out, air enters. For it to feel cool during the summer and during the tropical, hot and humid climate of India. So these are the physical differences.
The body is also balanced, no?
Very balanced, absolutely. So, what happened was there was something called the Operation Flood taken up in 1960s by Mr. Verghese Kurian, wherein he promoted crossbred cows, so cross between the Indian Bos Indicus and the imported Bos Taurus to get something in between which gave more milk. So, because sorry to say, but we are really greedy for milk. You know, if we were greedy for milk, it is understandable. But we're greedy for ice creams, we're greedy for rasgullas, we're greedy for everything. Can you imagine a mother is giving milk for you to consume in its purest form? Remember, it's milk. It's not a commodity. So, because we Indians didn't realize that, we started crossing our breeds indiscriminately. And there were hundreds of breeds, Indian cow breeds. Today there are 50 or less, okay, remaining. Rest of them wiped out, endangered, okay. So once we lose a cow, a breed, we cannot revive it back, right? So that's what happened. Local breeds starting to decline and many local breeds are endangered. So these are some news articles why the Indian cows are dying and the Desi cow is almost extinct. So the question arises, why do we need to conserve these cows, right? The first is the indigenous or the native cows are adapted to our climate, right? You bring somebody from a foreign land into your home and you feed him a lot of spicy food, what's going to happen to him? He's going to be in the bathroom all day, right? So, Indian cows are adapted to Indian climate and we must respect that. Because what it does is, they don't fall sick, right? They are hardy, they can work in the fields. They are extremely good for agriculture. Their dung and all is filled with good positive gram-bacteria which is utilized for the organic farming. Whereas the exotic cows, which the other side we saw on the left side, those are not adapted to Indian climates. In fact, the first time these cows came to India, they had to be put under fans and coolers, okay, so that the atmosphere is cool for them. Since that didn't happen and they grew so much, they have been left on the roads to fend for themselves once even when they're giving milk. And what it does is, they have a lot of diseases. They have to be pumped with antibiotics and other hormones, all right, to give more milk. So the dairy industry is pretty cruel in India. So coming back to the point of why we need to conserve them is, one, because Indian cows give A2 kind of milk. Okay, this is much more healthy than the milk that we get from the Jersey and the HF cows, which is A2 type. In fact, A1 type. A1 type milk has been linked to a lot of diseases, including diabetes, autism, and so on. Okay, so a lot of people speak about the devil in the milk today. That is for real, right? So we have to recognize these differences to be able to make better choices. And finally, like I said, the many breeds are endangered, and once we lose them, we cannot revive them back. And the cost of losing is the cost of losing farmer sovereignty. A farmer who is not having a desi cow or access to a desi cow cannot do natural farming, because cow is the basis for natural farming. So again, I emphasize here, what is the source of clean, organic, pesticide-free food? It has to be the desi cow. In fact, there's a great guru called Subhash Palekar, and he got the Padma Shri in 2016 for his work on something called ZBNF farming, or zero budget natural farming. The name itself tells it's zero budget. Means if you have a desi cow, you do, as a farmer, you don't need to buy anything from outside. You can make your own manure, you can make your own pesticide, you can do your own seed regrowing and something called Bija Amrit, where you multiply the seed into giving you best results, best germination. So he said that if you have one desi cow, you can do farming up to 30 acres. It makes 30 acres of soil fertile. That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I've studied from the London School of Economics. I never knew that something can be so economically beneficial. One cow eating grass is giving you enough manure and pesticide for 30 acres of land. Amazing, provided you know how to utilize it. Okay? Just worshipping is not enough. Worshipping is great because it's conserved the cow till date, right? But that is not enough. Okay? You can make over 40 kinds of different manures and pesticide out of the cow. So automatically, if the farmer becomes independent, the problem of farmer suicide stops, right? He doesn't have to take money to buy all these expensive things. He doesn't even need to buy a tractor because you see bullocks, particularly of the Indian cows, Indian breed of cattle, they are extremely good in plowing the field. In fact, the UN says tractor is bad for the soil because it compacts the soil. It is so heavy. Right? Whereas when a bullock walks on the soil, tilling the soil, very small layer of the topsoil, it doesn't damage the soil or any of its earthworms and other organisms living inside the soil. Of course, we spend a lot of money as a country on buying urea, so that's a huge expense on our exchequer. And if we start to use the desi cows properly, we don't need to do that. And of course, the best benefit of all of this is we are healthy. If soil is healthy, the crops are healthy and we are healthy, right? Indian soil is majorly deficient in a lot of micronutrients. Like there's deficiency of iron, there's deficiency of manganese, magnesium, so on. Many micronutrients. And the cow has the potential to replace them back into the soil. Okay, we make something called Panchagavya, Jeevamrit. All of these things replace the nutrients back in the soil. And once the soil is fertile, right, you're going to have great crops which has all these nutrients which your body needs. Okay, so if you want to be healthy, you got to even start thinking about what is the food that I'm eating, where it's coming from. Go back to the source, how's the soil, right? So everything is interconnected, right? So what are the 5 things that you can do as something that you can take away from the class to implement in your life? Anybody? Anything that you feel you should do about this? Okay, let me list. The first one, segregate your waste. We are always told to do that, even by the government. But what do you see? You put everything in a plastic packet, including the green waste, including all the wet, the dry waste, put it in a plastic cover and throw it out on the road. What does the poor cow do? It tries to help you. It tries to segregate what you should have done, separately have fed the cow and put the other things on recycling. But what does it end up doing? It ends up eating nails, it ends up eating plastic. We have to let nature help us, right? That is tuning with nature. What we used to do here is, everybody goes to the fruit shop, right? What do you do with the banana peel or any other peel that you eat? Chuck it in the bin right there. What do you do with the straws that you get from drinking the tender coconut? Chuck it right there in the same bin. What happens to it then? Anybody? It goes to the landfill. Because no one's going to sit there and segregate for you. If you were mindful, which yoga teaches you to be, every moment being mindful, you would put the straw separately, you would put the cooked food separately, you would put the banana peel separately. And my friend and I, my way of tuning with nature was taking all these peels and giving it to the cow. Because cow is the world's fastest composting machine. It eats all the wet waste, the green waste, and converts it into manure within 24 hours. Isn't that incredible? Right? So that is something that we can do. Integrate or connect back to nature. So you avoid landfills, you avoid soil pollution. The next thing you can do is try and get ethically sourced A2 milk or go vegan. Don't drink commercial dairy. It's really, really bad for you. Alright? The price is much expensive. People get it for between 100 to 150 rupees per litre here in Bangalore. I don't know about the rest of the country. So you can try sourcing that. Buy naturally grown food. So there are a lot of farmers who have started utilizing the cow to grow food organically or naturally. So you should try and consume that food. It's much more healthy. And of course you can try growing your own food in your terraces, right? That is what I do for my sustenance. Not just grow my own food, but I also sell a lot of manure to big apartments for afforestation projects and so on. Visit your Goshala for cow hugging, okay? And support the Goshalas who conserve the Desi breed of the cows, particularly the Desi breeds because they need support, right? And the last thing you can do is use a lot of cow-based products, right? So A2 ghee, right? It's available in the shop here also. You must have seen much more expensive than the usual ghee what you get in the market, which is not ghee at all, right? So you can use ghee, you can use cow dung cakes, you can use doop sticks, vibhuti, phenyl, tooth powder, panchagapya manure. The list is forever, right? And anything that you want me to talk to you about any of these products, how to make them, you feel free to ask. Here I've given you a list of useful links that I've referred to in my presentation. You can have a look and read more. And you can give us a shout. We're pretty easy to remember. Desicow.org is our website. You can write to me at info@desicow.org. I do this full time. I get calls from all over India to help them procure which is the local cow and how to get it, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we'll finish the session and then we'll also head to the Goshala. Yeah. Thank you. We need to be back by 11 o'clock because it's Dr. Karuna's class and she doesn't like you to be late, right? So we're going to quickly get up. Yes.
Can you